Hello, I'm Peter Freeth and I'm going to be joining prospects in Lebanon, in Beirut, to run a masterclass called Change Magic, which is named after a book I wrote a few years ago of the same title. Change Magic is about organisational change, but not as you've seen it before. Most organisational change approaches, going back decades, are about changing systems, procedures, policies, IT systems, organisational structures. These are all irrelevant because an organisation isn't something that you can create without people. In fact, I would say that an organisation or a business, a social enterprise, a charity, a company, any type of organisation is an emergent property. It's something that arises from the people. It's not something that we create in isolation and then put the people into. And so you don't have to look very far on the internet to see that a lot of experts say that organisational change is difficult, that most organisational change programs fail. And what most organisational change programs try to do is change the culture of a business and the working operations of a business from the top down by changing explicit rules, by changing systems and processes, and forgetting about the people. And these traditional change approaches, they see people as a barrier to change, just something people that you have to communicate with, you just have to tell them about the change. And they say that people naturally resist change, and they even use models of grief to explain why people resist change. Change Magic is built on a very simple premise that actually people do not resist change. People are constantly changing. People are constantly making changes and improvements and adaptations in their working life, in their working environment. People are constantly learning from every interaction with every customer, with every supplier, every competitor. They're constantly learning, innovating, improvising. And if we harness that natural pace of change and that natural momentum for change, and we feed that back into the organisation, what we have is a self-adapting, self-learning organisation, which is far more resilient in what is an ever-changing world and an ever uncertain economic environment. As humans, we create our own reality. In an organisation, we create a shared reality, and we call it a culture. Culture is something that a lot of experts find it very hard to define. It's an ethereal thing. If we just write some values down on a piece of paper and put them on the wall, that's a culture. No, it isn't. Culture is two things. It's very simple. Culture is language and rules. When you travel to another country or even another town, you see examples of culture. You see people doing differently than you, things differently than you're used to doing them. People using different language, of course, that you might understand or you might not. What's more subtle than a different national language is jargon, is the words that we use within organisations. For example, in your organisation, what word or what phrase do you use for an appraisal? Could be a review, an annual review, a performance review, a PADR, one company calls it, a personal appraisal and development review. So even something as simple as that, an order form, the name for a system, the name for a receptionist, a job title. These are examples of organisational language that mark out a culture, and the rules mark out a culture as well. The rules that we learn slowly when we join an organisation and we see people do things differently than we used to. So these rules are learned unconsciously, and we have two types of rules in an organisation. We have explicit rules and we have tacit rules. And the tacit rule isn't written down anywhere. It's hard for people to articulate what it is, but everybody knows what it is because everybody follows it. Everybody behaves in accordance with the tacit rules. For example, in your workplace, you might have an explicit rule that says you start work at 9 o'clock. But the boss comes into work at 7 o'clock. So the tacit rule says, actually you start work at 7. And what you'll find is the tacit rule wins. People will work hours that are not the same as their contracted working hours. They'll work longer hours typically because they think that's what's expected of them. They think that's what they have to do if they want to get on, to be seen, to be liked or to be popular or to be accepted. And as a social species, our survival depends on us understanding these tacit rules and adapting and conforming to them very quickly, because to adapt and to conform to the tacit rules means that we become accepted. So if we're to bring about change in an organisation, that's where we've got to focus our attention. When we change the rules, people will change the systems. People will increase productivity, efficiency. They will do that by themselves when we change the rules. So change magic is an approach to organisational change that allows you to decode and change the rules and the language of an organisational culture. Systems, processes, procedures, they're irrelevant. They are enablers for human decisions. They're the way that somebody has found something that worked and then they've systemised it so that other people can copy. But this is where most change management programs focus. They focus on the output of the process, not the input. With Change Magic, we focus on the input, the things that create the culture, and allow us to recreate the culture and recreate the rules and deliver different levels of organisational performance and responsiveness to external change as a result. Change Magic enables you to create organisational change that captures that natural human momentum, the natural human adaptability and innovation, the essence of what we are as humans. The creativity, the expertise, the excellence that each person brings to their job that makes change appear so effortless. If we could harness that and direct it, then that is Change Magic. And you, by coming on this masterclass, will learn how to make change so easy, so effortless, that your colleagues and clients will think you're a magician. Well, you will be. You'll be a change magician. So what you'll learn on this Change Magic workshop is you'll understand why most change projects fail by starting in the wrong place, focusing in the wrong area. You'll understand change as a perception, and how easy it is to change that perception and then change the results that we get. You'll learn that culture is a combination of language and rules and how to decode that. We'll touch on problem solving in large systems. Not much, because we'll be covering that in the Creative Problem Solving Masterclass. We'll understand why you can't create we'll understand why you can't solve a problem with the same We'll understand why you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it and what that really means. You'll understand setting a direction for change and effective facilitation, which is very important for any large projects that you'll be involved in. We'll work out how to set measurements and how we can use those measurements to create change. We'll understand how to motivate change, and finally how to direct change so that natural momentum, that natural improvisation that goes on, is given a direction and a momentum and takes us to where we want to be as an organisation. So join me at Prospects, Lebanon, in Beirut for the Change Magic workshop, and I look forward to seeing you there.